Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are once again talking about Mason Mount. Now fear not, for the sake of repetition, this will be the last time we are talking about Mason Mount, unless something particularly interesting happens between now and the start of the season. But today I want to talk about his debut. There's been a lot of talk about his performance on Twitter, some fans of rival clubs kind of criticising his performance, some United fans saying he played well. So basically today I want to give my thoughts on it, and we will break it down. And one of the reasons I want to do that is because, of course, surrounding Mason Mount, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of confusion about what his position really is going to be under Erik ten Hag. And I think we saw some things really cleared up in this game, and I think already, even in just 45 minutes, it's quite clear to see what Erik ten Hag has in mind. So today we're going to break it down. We will use the tactical board a little bit to kind of talk about a few things moving forward and also what we saw in that game. But also we are going to be using Once Video Analyzer Pro throughout the video, a really good video analysis software which I recommend you guys check out. There will be a link to it in the description down below. It's genuinely top quality, it's a really good software, and it's going to be massively helpful in this video. So first things first, I just want to kind of recap what I was saying in my match analysis video which we done the other day after the Leeds game. And one of the things which I was saying which Mason Mount was doing was, one, he was being used quite interestingly from a defensive point of view, the way that pressing triggers were being set, so we will cover that and we'll look at some examples of it. But also on top of that, I was talking about his positional freedom on the ball, about how at times he was running past the forward and in behind the opposition's defence, but how at other times he was dropping much deeper, and then other times he was in between the lines. Mason Mount was given a real freedom in this game, and I think that is what we will see moving forward in the long term. But like I said, it's clearly something we saw during this game, so that's what we're going to discuss. We're going to go through it, again using Once Video Analyzer Pro. This video is probably going to be a little bit laid back, probably not going to be, as much on presentation. It's going to be me kind of chilling and chatting to you guys about it, because yeah, I just thought we saw some interesting things which I want to cover. And I mean, the first thing here, which we can see, is Mason Mount in this high starting position in between the lines. And I think that's something which a lot of people have expected him to do. I think a lot of people kind of envision it as Casemiro being the holding midfielder, with Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes pushing up between the lines. And we can kind of see that working here. We can see Mason Mount highlighted. He's got Hannibal Mejbri just next to him here. So you've got two high eights ready to receive in between the lines. Now in this game we didn't actually see too many penetrative passes into defeat in these positions, but it is interesting to see them picking up these areas. So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order. The next involvement that Mason Mount had in the game was again high in this half space. Now we are not going to cover literally every touch that he had in the first 45 minutes because, one, I'm not too interested in set pieces for this video, but also we just don't need to talk about everything, if not it's going to be a little bit repetitive. But once again here we can see him high in the half space. And again, it'll be interesting to see if this is where he is going to be receiving the ball in the long-term future. We can see Mason Mount and Hannibal Mejbri, two high eights. We could maybe picture this being Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes. But on this occasion, Mount kind of gets the ball here. He receives the ball on the turn quite nicely, and then cycles the ball out to the winger. Nothing particularly impressive, but he keeps the ball well. He receives the ball on the turn really well in this scenario. And again, it's interesting to see that he is picking up this position. Now, one of the questions that a lot of people have had surrounding the signing of Mason Mount is, can he drop deep? Last season we saw Christian Eriksen dropping into these sorts of areas all the time. And, people have questioned whether Mason Mount can do that. And I am one of the few people who has sat here and said, yes, I genuinely believe he can. When he plays on the left-hand side of a midfield three, he can drop deeper and get on the ball and keep possession for his side. He's not massively expansive from his areas, but he can drop in and do it. And we did see evidence of that in this game, which I was quite pleased to see. Again, it's nothing major, it's nothing particularly impressive which he's doing, but it does just show that willingness to drop deep, get on the ball and keep the ball for his side. And once in this position, he gets the ball, he keeps it quite simple. But that is an important job for him moving forward. And again, we did kind of get some answers in this game. Can Mason Mount do certain things where he's dropping a little bit deeper? I think we saw in this match that he certainly can. This was also reflected in the shape that we saw during certain spells of the game. Here we can see Manchester United dropping into a sort of 3-2 shape in possession. Mason Mount actually, on this occasion, let me just move it. He is just off screen here, you can see him there, right? That's where Mason Mount is. Apologies, I didn't realise he was off screen before. But again, that's interesting that he's dropping into that position. Again, it is something which Christian Eriksen done to great effect for a lot of last season. So it was interesting to see him dropping into this area. Now, this wasn't the main theme of the game, as I said in my match coverage the other day. But again, it is showing this willingness for Mason Mount to drop deeper. A lot of people questioned whether it would be Bruno Fernandes responsible for dropping into these positions. And I saw a lot of you guys commenting on my video saying, why have you got Mason Mount dropping deep on the left when it's more likely to be Bruno Fernandes? I think we saw in this game that it's probably more likely to be Mason Mount. Of course, this is only the first preseason game, so it might change. But again, it feels like we got a little bit of an answer of what Mason Mount's role is going to be. He is going to be responsible for, at times, dropping a little bit deeper in midfield, which means that he will need to improve in certain areas of his game. But Erik ten Hag looks like he might be trying to convert him at times into more of a first phase player. I think we also saw quite a lot of Mason Mount in the second phase as well, and for me this is actually where he's at his best. Here we can see he's kind of started in a slightly higher position on the left hand side, but he's then dropped deeper to show himself available for the pass. He's going to pick up the ball here, and again it's very simple what he's doing. He's receiving the ball, he's turning away from danger and just moving the ball onto a teammate. But again, it's interesting that he's doing this. Of course we have to consider the sharpness and the level of the opposition, absolutely. However, a lot of people were saying Mason Mount can't play midfield because he can't do this job. He can't just drop deep and kind of keep the ball for his side. I think he showed once again that he can. It's very simple what he's doing, but I do think it is stuff which people were questioning before kickoff. Now, of course, I don't want to repeat myself, but again, we can see something very, very similar here. He's dropping deep into the midfield. Kobe Mainoo plays the ball into him. Mason Mount takes one touch and then lays the ball off to a centre-back. Again, it's really simple. It's very, very simple football, but it is showing Mason Mount's role in the team. Now, something which I was a little bit disappointed by, perhaps, is that at times he didn't try and take this ball on a turn. For example, if I just find the arrow tool real quick, get it on a white arrow for Leeds, we can see this player pressing here. What it would have been nice to see at times was Mason Mount maybe scanning, kind of understanding his surrounding, and then looking to use that to turn. If he could have used this to then receive the ball and turn this way, that's something I would like to see a little bit more moving forward. We didn't really see Mason Mount on the half turn in this game or really striding forward with possession. That's something I would like to see a little bit more. But once again, we can't overly look into this because it is pre-season. Players are rusty, they're not fully up to fitness, and Mason Mount doesn't fully understand the system yet. But again, it's something interesting. We saw that he is happy to kind of just cycle the ball over in the midfield. So far, it does feel like the focus has been on Mason Mount dropping into slightly deeper areas. We haven't really seen him pushing forward into the final third yet. And that is exactly the point I was trying to make in my Mason Mount announcement video. He is going to be a secondary creator in the largest sense, really. That is where he is going to be used. Bruno Fernandes, or, in this game it was Hannibal Mejbri, will be the one more likely to push high into these areas. Mason Mount will be responsible for dropping into different positions to keep the ball moving. So we've seen already he was kind of in this right-sided position in a 3-2 shape at one point. We've seen him dropping into a left-back position to get the ball. But there were also a couple of occasions where we saw him dropping into a more of a 3-1. Now, this is not something that I think will happen much at all. We will see this once, maybe twice a game, because Mason Mount really, is not the optimal player in this sort of position. But again, the key that we're seeing here is that Mason Mount was given a license to pick up different positions to get on the ball. Now, again, this isn't particularly in depth, and I kind of mentioned it in my match analysis video, that Mason Mount was popping up into different positions. But today I wanted to give you guys literal evidence of that. Because it's one thing me saying it, but if you guys don't watch the games, maybe you don't actually get to see it all the time. Here we can see this is the job that Mason Mount was asked to play. Now again, on this particular occasion, he doesn't get the ball, and he's doing nothing complex here, but he's just dropping in, making passing options available. And I think that highlights his intelligence. And people have maybe questioned what he done on the ball at times. I think his movement and movement into different positions, operating in and occupying different zones, was genuinely impressive. Probably the best phase of play which really highlighted Mason Mount's freedom was this phase of play here, where we can see him dropping almost into a right back position. We saw him doing this on the left hand side just a few minutes ago, but now he's doing it on the right, and in the top left you can see this is just 5 minutes into the game, really highlighting how he is allowed to move about the pitch. On this occasion he kind of drops outside of the Leeds shape, meaning that he has time on the ball to receive. He gets the ball, then plays the ball to the fullback, then moves back inside and makes the run off the ball. So that's good movement. He's played the pass, then made the run. We can see that he's kind of left this Leeds defender in the dust a little bit and moved past him. He then gets the ball again, and his first thought is head up, can I play this ball down the line? Now, in the end, I think the quality of the pass is poor, and I think he should have executed the pass. There was enough room to feed it in that channel, but it shows probably how he is a different player on the left-hand side to what he is on the right. So again, this match is more kind of enhancing what we were saying in our announcement video, that Mason Mount is a slightly different player on the right hand side to what he is on the left, because we didn't really see this sort of attempted pass on the left hand side. But of course, being right footed, when he's given his license to pop up into different positions, it makes the team a bit more unpredictable. So that was something which was really good to see. We also saw the best of Mason Mount from a defensive point of view as well, and that is something he will offer to this team, that counter pressing ability, and we can see it. On this particular occasion, he doesn't get the ball, but Amad Diallo, Jadon Sancho, players are linking up, but they actually lose the ball in this particular scenario. But Mason Mount is well positioned to quickly get himself on the counter press to win the ball high up the pitch. And again, it's just something which is interesting to see. From a defensive point of view, he was also popping up in different positions. For example, in this situation here, we've got him defending quite a bit deeper in more of a 4-2-3-1 shape. Hannibal Mejbri is responsible for picking up the deepest midfielder, whilst Mason Mount drops into that more Christian Eriksen-like position. Again, it is showing Mason Mount's versatility and ability to move into different areas. Now, I am just a little bit worried about this video dragging on too long. I've just checked how long I've been recording, and I still have a lot of clips to go through. If you guys in the future would like really extensive breakdowns like this, let me know. Today we are going to kind of skip over a few things just so the video doesn't drag too much. But if in the future you would like full breakdowns of literally every touch, you can let me know in the comments down below. Maybe that's something which we could do a Patreon page for. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. But one thing I did quickly want to talk about was kind of what he was doing in the first phase. This is something which has been questioned. Can he do it? And this was the only real scenario that I can recall during the game where we saw anything first phase related. And it's quite simple what he does. He kind of picks up this position on the left-hand side of the midfield. Once again, we can see him much deeper than the right-sided central midfielder. But he's going to drop him, keep it nice and simple. It's just a quick bounce pass. It's just a 1-2. But this is another way in which a player can be press resistant. And it's something where it might sound daft, but at times we have seen players like Fred really messing up these very simple passes. Mount just showed throughout the game that he's happy to get into different positions, pick up the ball in different areas. But in pretty much every scenario he was in, his first touch was good, his weight of pass was good. Technically, I think you could already see that the floor had been raised for the whole team by signing Mason Mount. As well as the technical ability of the side, I also believe that Mason Mount increases the intelligence, particularly off the ball. Again, we did cover this press in the match coverage, but today I want to go a little bit more in depth. We can see the 4-1-4-1 shape here, and we've got Mason Mount marked, we've got Jadon Sancho up front. Basically, Jadon Sancho is going to run across and force the ball to go one way. This is a pressing trap or a pressing trigger, and I mentioned it again in my video the other day, but I didn't talk about why it's the trigger. I spoke about the fact that it was the trigger, but I should have gone more in depth on, why is it the trigger? How is it created? Well, it's created like this. In the midfield, it's pretty much man for man. You've got the wingers covering the fullbacks, pretty simple stuff. Jadon Sancho is going to force the ball one way. But eventually, this ball is going to go into this midfield here. Because if we look at the player on the ball, if we just quickly mark him, he's on the ball here, right? Where can he pass to? He cannot pass up this way because Jadon Sancho's got it covered. So he cannot play that way. And he can't go anything more adventurous because they're all picked up in the midfield. So therefore, the only player which he can pass to is this player here. He is forced to play this ball. Now, thinking one step ahead, that's how you set a pressing trap or a pressing trigger. Because what you've got to think about is once this player has the ball, this player we've got marked here, where can he then go? Well, he now cannot go back to the player which has passed to him because Jadon Sancho is there, and we can see everyone else is picked up, meaning that the only option is for him to go back to the other centre-back, and this is why it is a pressing trap or a pressing trigger, because Manchester United have set the trap of forcing this ball to go back there. This isn't coincidence, this is good defensive setup. They are forcing the ball to go backwards towards this centre-back. And of course we can see Mason Mount ready to pounce, come out and apply the pressure, and it works really well. They win the ball back. Mason Mount should maybe do a little bit better with his decision or his final shot. But it shows the intelligence and the pressing traps and triggers in the team, so I thought that was quite interesting to see. The last thing that I wanted to cover, just to kind of highlight Mason Mount's versatility in this game, was also his runs off the ball. We've seen a lot of him dropping deeper, keeping the play simple. We've seen him defending, setting pressing traps, but also, like I said, being secure, technical on the ball, keeping possession. But also we saw intent, if you like, going the other way with runs off the ball, and again it's about intelligence. We can see the run, or the space, which has been opened up in the Leeds defence here. Mason Mount is very keen to get in this space as soon as the ball goes back to Raphael Varane. So the ball goes backwards, and Mason Mount makes a really good run. And on this occasion, Raphael Varane picks the ball up. We can see Mason Mount kind of making this darting run. The ball comes in behind. Unfortunately, kind of a combination of the timing wasn't quite right and the pass wasn't quite up to standard, so it didn't quite turn out to be anything. But you can see the threat which that is going to offer. Again, I mentioned it in the video the other day. We saw a lot of these runs, and on another day, if they're executed a bit better, they could become really dangerous. We have another one here. Let me just go back to it there, sorry. Here we have Lisandro Martinez on the ball in this deeper position. Mason Mount wants to spin and go in behind. We see it again here. So he's going to make this run in behind. This one we will play the clip through. But he makes this run in behind, maybe gets fouled, I'm not too sure. Nothing comes of it. But it does show the intent of Mason Mount. He wants to offer different things. And that is why Erik ten Hag has signed him. Because he has the energy to pop up in all of these different positions. In terms of, if we're comparing him to Christian Eriksen, Mason Mount is that little bit more versatile. He can pop up in different areas, but he has that energy to go the other way. We haven't even spoken about the defensive side too much in terms of winning his duels. I believe he made 4 tackles in this game, which also highlights another strength of his. But in general, I was quite pleased with what we saw from his debut. Now, like I said, this hasn't been the most in-depth video we will ever do, and it has been quite laid back in the way that I'm just kind of chilling and discussing it with you guys. And I do have loads more clips from that first half which I could go through. But I think those clips I've shown you so far kind of pick up and highlight the main things I want to talk about. But again, let me know if you would like more in-depth breakdowns in the future. But in terms of his debut, how did I think Mason Mount performed? I thought he done pretty well. He didn't do anything special on the ball. He was very safe and secure. But I think we learned a few things, or had a few things perhaps clarified for us, or re-enhanced. Mason Mount looks like he will be the left-sided central midfielder in the midfield 3. He looks like he will be replacing Christian Eriksen in terms of the role. That, therefore, means at times he will be dropping deeper, which means he does need to develop his skill set at times in the first phase. In the second phase, I think he's already comfortable. Maybe his long passing could do with work, but in the second phase, I think he will be more than comfortable dropping into the midfield. He said himself he likes to do it. He likes to drop deeper and get the ball. But also, we've seen he will be a threat in the final third. We've seen him making underlapping runs, overlapping runs, getting involved in the final third, trying to be creative, which is really good to see. Ultimately, I think it is that versatility, but also that technicality on the ball, which is why Erik ten Hag has signed him. He wants these different attributes in his team. So in terms of a debut, I think he'll be pleased with what we saw from Mason Mount. The patterns of movement were good, the zones he was picking up were good, his decisions on the ball were also pretty good. All round in general, I think he had a pretty good debut, and I thought we saw some promising signs, but we'll have to see how he does over the rest of pre-season, of course. All of those games, or certainly most of them, I will be covering on the channel. But I think in terms of today, I've been recording for close to half an hour now, so we are going to wrap it up there. So get in the comments down below, let me know if you would like to see more of these videos, other videos you'd like to see, and let me know your thoughts on Mason Mount and his debut. Personally, I thought it was good, it didn't set the world alight, but it was pretty decent, and we saw promising signs. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching, I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.